Here we are, Tuesday, buddy, mailbag day.
We did it.
And we are doing a mailbag in an actual fun time to be a baseball fan. What a nice change.
It's great because, for the last couple weeks, the comments on the videos started really hitting zero and staying there. So we were really scraping the bottom of the barrel to get some good comments. But now the enthusiasm for ball is back. The comments are all up. We're getting lots of DMs, lots of messages. Discord is on fire. There is a lot to get to.
Discord has been insane the last 2 days, which, by the way, if you have yet to do so, feel free to join our Discord for free. There is a link in the show notes. And let me tell you, there's about 100 crazy Blue Jays fans in there that are just literally... What's the best way of putting this? It's like half of them are fire and the other half are gasoline, and they're just like really really pushing each other to just madness right now with all these Freeman rumors, all the Schwarber rumors, all the talk. It has just been such a fun time to be a Blue Jays fan after, let's face it, man, a pretty dark winter.
You know, it's the one thing that really kept me going through the lockout was that the light at the end of the tunnel was this well, once it ends though, we're gonna have a week of is it ever gonna be fireworks? And here we are, and it's it's been a slow burn in reality in terms of announcements, but dominoes are starting to fall, and the rumor mill is there, and it's an exciting time for sure. So it
sure is, absolutely. So welcome everybody to the walk-off. I'm Scott Belford, joined as always by Adam Mack. We have what would you say, man? Probably quadrupled our views in the last week since baseball returned.
Yes.
And there's, I know, a lot of new faces, a lot of new fans. So maybe if we want to give a quick little rundown of our typical schedule.
Yeah, let's do that.
So that everyone's on board.
I do just want to point out, you mentioned that views and everything are up. We should also pay some respect to our audio listeners on the audio side of things. So January was our most downloaded month in the 2-year history of this show. We hit 1,700 downloads. February was right on track with that. 3 days less than the month, but around 1,700 downloads. And we're halfway through March, and we're already surpassed that number. So
thank you all very much for honestly hitting subscribe is a big deal. Just downloading is a big deal. So we really do appreciate everyone on the audio side. You can get the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's Google or Apple or Spotify or whatever it is. And of course, the YouTube side of things, thank you to everyone who is subscribed. We literally are gaining 10 to 20 subscribers a day. It's very, very cool to watch this kind of growth now that baseball's back, and we appreciate it very much.
We're still a small channel, but I think we're appreciative of the wonderful little community that we're growing. So, all right, let's get to the schedule here, and then we got a lot to talk about in the mailbag.
Yes.
So before we get to the mailbag, if you're new here, we do Mailbag Mondays every single Tuesday, which makes sense, right? We do a new show every single Friday. We do Long Toss, which is our round table baseball discussion. It's like a 2-hour show every Sunday night. And then sprinkled in kind of just all over the place, we have interviews with Blue Jays, former Blue Jays, future prospects, people involved at all levels of the sport. We've had members of the Canadian men's and women's national team. I know in April we have at least 2 women from the bronze medal team that won bronze at China at the Olympics there last year. So that's going to be a lot of fun to talk to those ladies. And now with the return of baseball, we also are going to have the return of our Tuesday night live stream. So I know we've picked up a lot of new followers and subscribers over the course of the off season, so they might not even be aware that we do this. But every single Tuesday night for all the Blue Jays games all summer long, you and I are here on YouTube live. We're interacting with chat. It's just a fun little watch party.
It really is.
We are going to kick it off with the season opener on April 8th versus the Rangers, which is a Friday, but we're still going to do it because we're rebels like that. So Marcus Semien and the Rangers come to town, so that'll be a lot of fun.
And as comedians, we're unbooked that day, so our failure is your success.
Just by chance.
I know you did. Sorry, I'm just going to jump in real quick here because I know you did mention former Blue Jays as some of the interviews that we do, and we just posted Mark Zepchinski yesterday night. Scrabble. So he was a fantastic guest on the show. He sat down and talked with us for almost an hour, really got into his World Series win with the St. Louis Cardinals, which is the Jays traded him to the Cardinals at the trade deadline there, and that was an interesting story too. And then he really gets into becoming a lefty specialist, and what an odd twist it was. He was one of the probably most, I mean, there were probably, what do you think, 20 guys that were really, really affected by the three batter rule. Yeah. Zepchinski, definitely one of those guys. So just a very interesting interview front to back.
Yeah, that rule change essentially ended his career.
It really did.
So it was
after, and what's funny too is that he wasn't a lefty specialist. He started with the Jays as a starter. The Cardinals used him against lefties and righties, and then when he went to Cleveland, you know, the analytic driven Cleveland organization kind of figured out where he was most effective, which was against lefties, and they pigeonholed him into this lefty specialist, which he was all for, and then the rules changed and he couldn't get it back. But anyways,
so the one point that I found really interesting too is, like you said, he never really struggled with righties throughout his career until that point, right? But he's like when you only see a right-handed batter once a month, you know, if they get a hit off you, it'll take 4 months to bring your average to balance that back out. So he's like, once you do see a right-hander, it all of a sudden now it actually is a thing psychologically, right? Like there is a pressure now to perform against this righty where there wasn't before. So very interesting story, very interesting career with Zepchinski there. So great listen there. That is up now on the audio side as well as the on YouTube. So
we're over 30 prospects deep, by the way. Everyone who is looking forward to seeing what's coming up the pipeline, if you start going into our back catalog, we have got a lot of Blue Jays prospects that we've sat down with.
And some pretty high-level guys. I know that the Blue Jays just announced their Major League invitees, the prospects that got included, and there was 12 names on that list, and 6 of them were friends of the show. So very cool there.
50% of those boys waiting for that walk-off bump that we gave Palacio, Sneed, and Saucedo, right?
That walk-off bump, absolutely. And then we might also be adding a second live stream, like a takeover kind of a show, in addition to the Tuesdays with Joel and Craig, who you probably know from the Long Toss, or more likely are familiar with them from their work on TikTok, as between the two of them, they have around 100,000 followers over there.
What an addition those two have been to the Long Toss, and we're just so excited that they're so keen to contribute to the channel. Absolutely.
It's great. So look forward to some more fun with those guys on our page throughout the rest of the year. You mentioned Discord off the top. Discord is open. It's free to join. There's a link, whether you're listening to this on a podcast or you're watching on YouTube. There is a clickable link if you're not familiar with Discord. It's basically just a big, somewhat organized group chat. We have about 100 people in there right now, and just sharing stupid stuff, arguing, making fun of each other, but it's all in jest. It's all pretty good atmosphere.
Riling each other up on speculation, right? Like, man, when that Carlos Barga Freeman stuff came out, and then everyone, like, and this was far before Tim and friends attacked it, you know, like where they're like the show of Gurriel and the comment, right? And all of a sudden Vladdy likes it, and there's like 6 people who are posting it, and like it was pretty fun.
Absolutely. So it's a lot of fun in there. And then lastly, our Patreon is up and running, so big thank you to those of you who have joined the Patreon and supported the show. We've got Mustard Tiger, SCTI, and Jeremy V. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Of course, that is just $4 a month. And part of that is you get a super fancy golden all-star role in the Discord, which just shows that you are in fact better than everyone else. And no other privileges. But we do have a monthly movie review that we do for our Patreons there. So far we've done Bull Durham, we've done Mr. Baseball, the Tom Selleck Classic, and Major League was our February show. Coming up in March, I know we're recording it next Tuesday, I believe, is A League of Their Own. So classic there. A lot of fun to be had. So
it was pretty cool too. Like, in all honesty, we really dragged our feet on Patreon. We weren't sure how we felt about it, and we just kind of got it up and going here just last week. And the fact that 3 folks jumped on board so quick, very, very cool. So we truly appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, and it's fun too because I mean we're watching some absolute classic baseball movies that we hold very near and dear to our heart. And we're not movie review guys, right? We're just 2 idiots fucking around essentially. It's turned into I probably look forward to it more than almost anything else we do, and I know almost nobody's gonna see it. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. Let's just leave it there and get to the mailbag now, shall we? So first one comes in from Discord, believe it or not. So this one comes in from Forbesy, who shared a tweet, and this one's just a silly thing, but just wild. Ken Griffey Jr. is now the 6th highest paid player on the Cincinnati Reds this season. He's still receiving deferred payments from his last contract. So he's making $3.59 million this year.
The big red machine is the little green machine when it comes to the money. Like, they are just fire sailing out their players right now. Of course, we just saw them move Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez yesterday to the Mariners, which, by the way, the M's are looking like legitimate contenders in the American League. Wow. Yeah. That's Robbie Ray they've added. That's Jesse Winker, who honestly, last year, Jesse Winker, I mean, he has progressed every year in Cincinnati, but last year he was getting NL MVP votes. Very impressive. Quite a bolstering of the infield there with Suarez and the outfield with Winker. So, Seattle, pay attention.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you got Jared Kelenic, right? He's their top prospect, made his debut last year and should be with the team in a full-time role this year. So
they also added a Cy Young Award winner, right? Robbie Ray.
Yeah. No, this
near
team
and dear
is,
to all us Jays hearts. Yes.
This team is
Jays
all in
hearts.
right now. So Mariners going to be a fun team to watch this year. Which again,
that Jays Seattle series, July 7, 8, 9, buddy, that is going to be intense, especially now the Canadians can cross the border.
Oh, right. Yeah, get your tickets. All right. Next comment comes from Ryan on our long toss episode that we did on Sunday. He said, "Great pod, guys. Keep up the great work, and I love the jokes. Certainly nobody here comes here for the breaking news, so I'm glad you enjoy the jokes." We also did a discussion on Cal Ripken Jr.'s Ironman record for like 2,600 consecutive games played. Absurd, right? And whether we had a kind of a debate, not much of a debate, there wasn't much arguing going on, but whether or not that was the most untouchable record in all of sports. And Ryan just wanted to point out that Wayne Gretzky's point record is pretty darn untouchable.
Which is a great point, Ryan, and that was one that we didn't really bring up. So well done on. Yeah, that's true. Gretzky's, no one's breaking that.
Just for anybody who's not too familiar with that record, he leads the NHL in all-time points, so goals and assists. He has 2,857 points in just under 1,500 games, so around 1.9 points per game for the life of his career, which is absurd. To put that in perspective, Jaromir Jagr is the second on that list, who has basically 1,000 points less and played an extra 3 seasons on top of that. So
wow,
pretty absurd. Mark Messier, one of Gretzky's teammates in his prime, and is 1,000 points behind and played for an extra 300 games as well. As far as active players go, we have Joe Thornton leading the way among active players with just over 1,500 points. So he's a little over halfway there, but he's already played 200 games more than Gretzky ever did. And then we've got Ovechkin.
So for all you Gen Zers and young millennials out there is a reason they called him the Great One.
Absolutely. And if you guys are like, well, this is a Blue Jays podcast, why are we talking about Gretzky? I think Wayne Gretzky was actually drafted by the Blue Jays, believe it or not. So, and then as far as the Ovechkin and Crosby, the young kids, so they have played. Ovechkin has 500 fewer games than Gretzky, a little bit earlier in his career, obviously still at this point. Only has 1,391 points, so he's not even halfway there. But of note, Gretzky's goal record, so all-time goals with 894, also felt untouchable. But within the last couple years, there's been some talk heating up about could Alex Ovechkin actually catch him. So Alex Ovechkin, as of today, March 15th, has 766 career goals. So he's only like 130 goals away from that record, and he's only 36 years old. I mean, only 36. That's still ancient in sports talk. But Jaromir Jagr played until he was 46. Right? Jagr was out there just scoring goals. Like, he's like, I'm not going to back check. I'm just here to shoot. Right? Yeah. Like, so it could happen. I think, honestly, it's likely to happen. I think Ovechkin is going to take that record. He's 36 now, 234 goals in 10 years would get him to 1,000. Do you think that could happen?
No.
I think it might. I think Ovechkin could get to 1,000. We see Gordie Howe's on the list with 801 goals. He played until he was like 50, right?
Yeah.
I just feel like if Ovechkin gets to 40 and he's over 900 goals, why not play another 5 years and just get to 1,000? 1,000 would be such a cool milestone that, like...
I agree, but I still think it's 50-50 he even catches Gretzky. But...
Oh, interesting. All right. Well, that's a hot take for another episode, so...
Okay.
Let's move on.
Let's move back to baseball.
Let's move back to baseball. Thank you for the 3 people who are still watching. So this is what comes in from Twitter. Tortoise Farmer says Anthony Telford was such a great guest. Have him back as soon as you can. Yeah. Can't
agree more. By the way, there was a lot of comments like that on Twitter where we were added, which is very cool. So I grabbed a couple of them, but yes, Anthony Telford is incredibly entertaining. He's so fun to listen to talk baseball. He really embraces that, what's the best way of putting it, crotchety old manness of his?
Yes.
Without it being too legitimate, you know? Like, he knows he's a crotchety old man.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Which goes a long way.
He's the perfect old baseball guy that you could talk to.
He's awesome. Yeah.
Does not at all have the name recognition. So we've had him on the show 4 times now, but we've had him on for 3 full hour-long discussions. I think those are some of our worst performing interviews because nobody knows who the fuck Anthony Telford is. But you definitely should go back and watch those if you haven't already. For the most part, they're pretty evergreen. I think there might be a few minutes in each one where we're talking about something
specific
to whatever was happening.
But
for the most part, definitely, he's just talking old stories about why he hates the Yankees. You know, time playing with Vlad Sr. in Montreal. There's so many awesome stories in there. So.
Yeah, he had a couple stories about playing with Vlad Sr. where he was the old man, like Telford was the old man in the clubhouse, and Vlad Sr. is playing PlayStation before the game, and like it was just, and this was the 90s, right? Like now everyone's playing PlayStation before the games, playing vids before the games, right? But now, but then everyone was like, "What is this kid doing?" And he just tells the story of Felipe Alou, the manager at the time, being like, "Leave him be. He'll be fine."
He doesn't need to stretch. And then, of course, he goes out and hits 2 bombs. The next tweet here. Guys, what a great show. Loving long toss. I never fist pumped to a podcast before, like when Anthony started talking about the guys in our bullpen. I'm fired up for this season. Yeah, I mean, if you watch that clip back, I think you could see all 5 of us were doing either a fist pump or clapping or just whatever when he started talking about Ryan Baraki and those guys. So a lot of excitement there. Next one comes from Dulcimerist. And this is a fun comment. So he says, with players locked out of the MLB training facilities and not having access to their coaches, Anthony Telford stepped up to work with 3 key Blue Jays relievers while also getting one of their catchers on board with these new adjustments. If they have a phenomenal season and Toronto brings home a World Series trophy, Telford deserves a World Series ring. I love it. I love that idea.
It is kind of cool, though, if you do think about the fact that these major leaguers were locked out of their own facilities and that Telly opened up his complex to any major leaguer who was going to tip his catchers. Like that's literally what that was the only parameter he had for pitchers coming in and using his facilities, was that the high school catchers he has catching for them, they've got to throw him some bucks. And I just love that. I love that so much.
The only thing I love more than that is that he has guys like Aaron Judge in the facility too. And he says, you can't wear any Yankees gear in here.
And then they didn't.
They're like, okay, fine. I love that. All right. So he also
that was by the way, I just want to jump in real quick here, because when he was talking about Aaron Judge, and he was like, Judge was really bugging him to come in because he knew Romano was in there, and he's like, let me come in and see Romano. And he's like, Romano has my number, and Telly's like, absolutely not. You are not coming in here while Jordan Romano is pitching. And I love that.
I love it too. All right, Dulcimer goes on to add who all is in the Blue Jays bullpen this year, and then he has a list of names. So I just want to kind of go over the names because I know a lot of moving pieces in the bullpen. So let's just do a quick rundown of our bullpen this year. So the names in no particular order are Romano, Garcia, new addition, Tim Meza, Simber, Richards, Stripling is now going to be a bullpen piece by default, Nate Pearson, and Baraki. So that would be 8. Plus, we just signed Vasquez to a major league deal, so he's got to be in the bullpen.
Another lefty,
Another lefty. And then we've also got Castro, Merriweather, who looked great in April last year and then had the injury. Sacedo, friend of the show. Sneed, friend of the show. And Thornton are all extra depth on the 40-man roster. So, look, right there, I mean, and then we've also got Phelps, Biagini, Johnston. Like, this is a deep bullpen. Our starting rotation is getting all of the love in the media, but this bullpen is miles ahead in terms of depth from where we were last year. Last year, our bullpen did admirably in April and May. May they started to
May the wheels started to fall off with injuries.
Wasn't sustainable. This bullpen looks good.
Well, and this is the big thing, right? Is that if you take a look at the bullpen late March, right before the season started in 2021, it looked good. The names looked good. It was a healthy bullpen. You had depth at when I say depth, I mean depth from high leverage guys, right? Yes. There were several high leverage guys you could go to. The guys
in the bullpen were deep.
And we felt good about it. But then all of a sudden you get 4, 5, 6 injuries, and I'm not exaggerating. Every Blue Jays fan here listening to this is like, 5, 6, 7 injuries. That sounds about right in the bullpen. And then it was a dumpster fire in late May and June, like literally to the point where fans were like, do something, do anything. Like, we're drowning here. But now you look at what they've done depth-wise on the 40-man and the guys who aren't even going to start with this team in the bullpen. It is really exciting, man. And you look at, and like, that was one thing about listening to Telly on Long Toss on Sunday, was if you do see a drastic jump in, let's use Baraki, because this was the guy that Anthony Telford couldn't say enough good things about, right? This is a guy who started as a starter, has gone through Tommy John, struggled through transitioning into the bullpen, had some minor injuries. His timing was way off, is what Telford was saying. And so they worked a little bit on his delivery, and his timing and his stride is in sync now. This is a guy who is sitting average fastball from the left-hand side between 94 and 96. Telly was saying he's topping out at 99. Like, are you kidding me? If Ryan Baraki steps up all of a sudden, who has been a low-leverage guy, he's a guy that last year you would see maybe coming in the 6th or 7th inning when there wasn't anyone on base. But if all of a sudden this is a guy who is going to pair well with Meza and Romano at the back end of the bullpen, think about what a boost that is for the Blue Jays. And that's before we even talk about the acquisition of Yimi Garcia, before we even talk about any of these other guys taking a jump in the right direction, Nate Pearson finding it, all that stuff. So pretty exciting, man.
Well, and it takes a lot of pressure off our starting pitchers to know that we're not going to have too many blown wins. Like last year, it did feel like even if we were up by 2, just seeing the starting pitcher's pitch count climbing, you go, oh, we're in the 3rd inning and they're already at 70 pitches. I know we're up. You haven't allowed any runs, but you go, we're going to have to go to the bullpen here, probably the 5th or 6th. Like, I don't know if we have the arms to contain a 2-run lead.
Yeah, to avoid Chatwood. Do we have the arms to avoid Chatwood?
Yes. So
no, even little things like long relief. Like, look at Stripling back there, and Ross Stripling is an interesting case because he's the guy that with the Los Angeles Dodgers, this was his role. Obviously, a guy who could step up and do a spot start here and there, but he was always a swing guy who would come in and 2, 3 mop-up guy. Like, he's in a role that he probably should have been in all along. And don't get me wrong, Ross Stripling really performed well last year when we needed him in the most clutch times. Like, if you think back to July and August, all of a sudden Stripling was pitching to like an under 3 ERA, and everyone was like, this is insane. I don't know when the wheels are going to fall off, but let's ride it. And it was like 8 starts in a row before he wound up, tweaking something. But anyways, we can move on. But yeah, the Blue Jays bullpen, I'm feeling good about it.
This team is stacked from tip to taint. Like, the batting order can slug. Our starting pitchers, you've got to be feeling good about. And even the bullpen, like, I'd put our bullpen up against anybody else in the AL. I don't know. I'm feeling good. Let's move on, though. Oh, go ahead.
I do think that there is another bullpen acquisition that is going to happen, honestly. Okay. And, I mean, all these rumors that have come out, obviously the front office, a big lefty bat is priority number 1. I mean, these Freeman rumors are not going away. These reports that they are in heavy on Schwarber are not going away. Hopefully we finish this cast up and it's already out of date and everyone's like, these idiots, they already have Freeman and Schwarber.
So the bullpen addition you're talking then is bring in Freeman to play first base, bring in Schwarber to DH. Vladdy's not going back to third.
The pen.
Vladdy's going to the bullpen. Okay. Low leverage guy. Let's not get greedy, right?
Yeah.
But, okay.
So he could compete with Ohtani for the MVP this year. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So let's move on here now. This one comes in from Rob Fazekas. I don't know if I'm saying that right. First time seeing you comment on the channel. So welcome, Rob. It says, could the Jays trade for Jose Ramirez? I think we could. I don't think we will before the season starts. I think, there was some speculation that the Jays might make that move this offseason. I think maybe with the expanded playoffs now, the Guardians are not feeling the pressure to be sellers right now. I think. Yeah. In that AL Central.
And let's face it, man, we just watched Matt Olson get traded from the A's to the Braves for a haul. Like, it was...
So it was 4 prospects.
Four prospects, 3 of their top 10.
And another one, number 16. Yeah, it was for Matt Olson, who is, I mean, a great first baseman. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But he is
a top 5 first baseman in the league, for sure.
But he is not young like Ramirez. He is not under such team-friendly control like Ramirez for the next 2 years. Yeah, Ramirez is going to be expensive if we're going to trade for him. And I think later in the year, as we approach like trade deadline, if the Guardians are out of it and they're taking trade offers, they're going to be taking trade offers.
Then it could happen.
But they're also going to be taking trade offers from 5 teams who are in a playoff race and feel like Jose Ramirez might be the one piece they need to finally get past those pesky Blue Jays, right?
Very true. And I think the more likely candidate, if there is going to be a trade made for a third baseman, would be Matt Chapman out of Oakland, right? Right. Seems like a better fit.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
For the amount you would give up.
It would be costly. All right, let's move on. So this one is this one warmed my heart to see. So last week we had some discussion about Carlos Correa and why there's actually like a little bit of logic to maybe he might possibly sign with the Orioles. Obviously, still probably not going to happen, but just some logic there. So we had a comment from an Orioles fan, which was very exciting to see. So Ruins commented with, man, if he signs with us, low key, we would cause some havoc. And then he goes on to like list all the position players. He's like, we would have Mullins in center field, Correa at shortstop, Mancini is a DH. Like, just the passion from a Baltimore Orioles fan. I'm not trying to like dismiss it with my laughter, but like I just love it because not a lot of reason to be an Orioles fan right now. So
no, in fact, to bring this up, I'm going to just pull this up here. I've got it in my photos. So Fangraph.
Yes, Fangraphs
Just posted the AL East playoff odds. Blue Jays 89.2%.
Let me stop you there. Sorry, this is quote unquote likelihood to make the playoffs.
Make the playoffs in 2022, according to Fangraphs. So Blue Jays are at 89.2%, Yankees at 85.4%, Rays at 67.2%, Red Sox at 52.2%, Orioles 0.2%. And let me give you this little caveat, Oriole fans. Okay, last year Fangraph had you at 0.0%, making progress, low-key making some noise.
Oh, that must be all Fangraph speculating that, well, maybe if they sign Correa, they got a shot.
They saw you clip that chunk of yours, yeah.
My takeaway from that, obviously, the Jays are favorites to make the playoffs at 89%. I think the 11% of us not making the playoffs is like devastating injuries, right? Like multiple devastating injuries, knock on wood.
All the wood, all the knocks.
All of it everywhere. 52% chance that the Red Sox are the fourth team. So Fangraphs is projecting that 4 teams in the AL East make the playoffs.
They're literally saying there's a better chance that there's 4 playoff teams from the AL East that there's not. It's
by
crazy.
definition, that means probably.
Yeah.
That's probably going to happen.
And I don't know if everyone was paying attention, but in the last 24 hours, all of a sudden, there's all this talk of the Red Sox and the Rays being in on Freeman pretty heavily as well, right? And the Yankees, we already know we're in. The Jays are one of the front runners right now. So it's kind of at the point where the AL East is like, well, what we've got to get Freeman so somebody else doesn't. Like, right. It's almost less what Freeman brings to the table and more
we don't want to go against him. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. No, there's
and I feel that
there. I feel that too. No, it goes Jays get him, and then Dodgers get him, and then fuck.
Yeah, and then we're exactly.
Oh man! All right, let's move on to the next one here. This is a fun one. Comes from Nathan Henderson. Says, "What's the appetite for Canadian Baseball League these days? I remember Fergie Jenkins commissioned a league back in the day, but there were no major ballparks, so it folded. So if we could get some major ballparks built, could we have a Canadian Baseball League coast to coast?"
So I want to just jump in here real quick, and I guess it would depend on his definition of major ballparks. Mm-hmm. Do you think does the Canadian market have it in them to have Rogers centers across the country? Absolutely not. That is not something that is viable. It's not something that's would work. There isn't the population. Now, that said, if you go to a much lower level standard, I think it absolutely could happen. But here's the problem, all right? Winter. Mm-hmm. Winter is a major, major problem. So the league would need to massage when it starts around the weather. So it would probably need to start in early June. It would probably need to be wrapped up by late September. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a 100-game season. You probably need to have all of these places that are 50 to 100,000 people population-wise on board. So I know there was the Pioneer League around Western Canada that used to be very similar to Low A. And I know that the Jays had an affiliate there. There were lots of affiliates throughout. Mm-hmm. And there were teams in places like Medicine Hat, in Lethbridge, through BC and some of their smaller places. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think it's viable. I would love it. I would absolutely love it. I don't know if the appetite is there for that sort of league. It would probably need to be an independent league. It probably wouldn't be affiliated.
So you're talking about if we're going to towns like Medicine Hat and Red Deer and these 50 to 100,000 population centers, you're talking about like a
stadiums
30,
that sit 3,000 people.
but you're talking about like a 30-team league, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think
I don't want to see the CFL, man.
You don't want to see a
CFL.
10-team baseball league where they only play like a 3-game series on the weekends and. No.
Well, I would go.
Of course you'd go.
but I'm a baseball nerd. I couldn't help it.
I know.
I just don't know if it's viable. You know what I mean? Like the CFL is literally sinking as we talk about this right now. So
I don't know. Maybe Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson can come commission a Canadian baseball league too.
Yeah.
So, it would be fun, but it is not practical for all the reasons you listed. Even the CFL struggles, and it has 100 years of history behind it. Right, we're talking about generations of loyal fans in Saskatchewan, and then other fans that pop up in other cities too. But it would be cool.
Great question, though.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
All right, 2 more here, a couple more. So this one comes from Glimmo, who says, "Great pod, lads. Really enjoying the Sunday night roundtable. Long toss. Great show. Great name. Thank you for the comment, Glimmo. We're having a lot of fun doing it." I just wanted to respond to this with who are some of your like favorite baseball content creators that we should try and have on, and don't come at us with you should get Jean Boy on the show. Like, yeah, of course we should get Jean Boy on the show, but like realistically, who are some small content creators or medium-sized content creators that we should have on? Just, I guess, let us know in the comments, and that goes for everybody. Anybody watching this who's like, oh yeah, you should hook up with Jim from Ball Cap Sports or whatever. I know we've actually been in talk with Jim, so
yeah.
Jim's gonna be
and by the way, we have had a couple requests for Blue Jays today to come on. I have messaged them and they have not messaged me back, so feel free to bug those kids a little bit. We'd love to have them on, but
there you go. Sounds great.
They might be too big for us.
They might be too big for us. We'll see. But yes, they're definitely welcome. All right, next one comes from Raps for the Win 25. So this is
he's back, baby.
He's back. Yeah. Well, that's his comment. Is I'm back. Squad.
Oh, is it amazing?
LOL. Sorry for being absent. Time for ball. So no worries. I don't think we.
I love that's his comment because like he was so active with us throughout the season last year, and then
I don't think you can blame any Jays fan or any baseball fan for tuning out during the lockout, even during the off season in general. Like, whether there was a lockout or not, aside from when there's signings, like most fans tune out, watch hockey, watch basketball, whatever, and then come back when the season starts. So absolutely,
especially this year,
no worries.
It was probably the emotionally and mentally healthy thing to do was to tune out.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, welcome back. It's nice to have you. This last comment now comes from our Discord, and this was posted speculation on Freddie Freeman. So this is a screenshot of a tweet from Vince Says Stuff, and he says, "Take this for what you will, but the only name you cannot put on a customized Blue Jays jersey right now is Freeman. The exact same thing happened before they announced Ryu." And then he's got a screenshot of the MLB's website with like custom Blue Jays request with Freeman and number 5 on the back. I just wanted to point out that like when I did that Carlos
come in
Correa,
with the negativity, Adam.
Hey, man,
come in with the negativity. A bucket of cold water.
Bucket of cold water on this fire. When I did that Correa to the Orioles video, and I had to make a thumbnail for it. I'm not good at Photoshop, so I couldn't attempt to put Carlos Correa's head in an Orioles jersey. So I tried to do this as like a simple thumbnail. It was like, well, I'll just put Correa on the back of a Orioles jersey. They wouldn't let me put Correa with his actual number on there, so that's why I had to use 11 instead of 1. I tested it out with a few other players when I did this last week, and you can't put any player with their actual number on the wrong team. So you can't put Freeman with 5 on any team but the Braves. You can't put Correa with number 1 on any team but the Astros. Just as I'm sure you couldn't put Alek Manoah with number 6 on any team but the Blue Jays. So, I mean, there's a lot of reason to read the tea leaves on Freddie Freeman to the Blue Jays, and I'm buying in on a lot of it. I think it is genuine, whether or not we get him. But this particular little anecdotal evidence is not evidence. So, but it's still fun. So sorry to be the
Very
Debbie
fun.
Downer.
Nope. But this has literally been in our Discord for the last 24 hours. Was just that is not the only piece of evidence that like people are just scrounging and they're like, what about this? What about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of fun. We'll see where it all shakes out. I'm sure by the time I get this edited and I'm just about to hit publish, there will be an announcement that Freeman just signed with hopefully the Dodgers or the Jays. So
Yes, agreed 100%, man. So we will end it there, right? We'll wrap up here.
oh yeah.
Okay, so let's leave it at this. I did wish to quickly tease before we wrap this completely up here that we do have a really cool interview that we're releasing on Thursday. Robert DiBernardo, he is the head of the mental performance with the Toronto Blue Jays. So he works specifically with the 40-man roster, but his team works with the entire organization. It was an incredible interview. Now, we talked to him about a month ago. The nice thing with him is that it's all pretty evergreen stuff because it's really it's heavy psychology stuff. Yeah, it's heavy psychology stuff and just the way they approach the players and how they deal with slumps and even hot streaks.
Transitioning to life after ball, all of it. It's all
it was really insightful stuff. So that is going to be released on Thursday. This is one episode that if you're a ball fan, it is worth watching. You will get sucked in, I promise. Even if the first couple minutes might be a little slow or you feel that way, like it gets really, really interesting. So take the time to check it out. If you've got an hour to spare sometime, maybe you're driving somewhere and just want to listen to it. Anyways, I cannot push this episode enough because it was so fun to talk to him and he was so in depth with his answers. Anyways, there you go. There's my tease. Long toss on Monday this time. We normally do it on Sunday. However, it is going to be Monday. I'm on the road in northern Saskatchewan this week, and Adam has a hockey tournament with his daughter.
BC, so. Yep. But we'll make it happen on Monday. It'll be a lot of fun. I think we have a Blue Jays player or prospect joining us for Monday. I don't want to say names in case
that's the hope.
Can't make it. It is dependent on
he's on the morning. We'll tease. He is on the 40-man roster. He's the guy who has been on the show before, and he was awesome to chat with. However, his response when I messaged him was, "I might be pitching that day, and if that's the case, I got to bail. But if I'm not, I'm in." So,
and that's fair.
Yes,
that's fair. He can pursue his baseball career instead of
the walk-off can take a back seat when you're pursuing your major league career. Sure, we'll accept that.
All right. Well, it was good to talk to you, Scott. I look forward
Always a pleasure, man.
Seeing you Friday.
Right back at you, buddy. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.